Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your Hurricane Outlook and discussion for Friday, the 29th of June, 2018. Taking a look at the Eastern Pacific, we have Amelia here, struggling to maintain itself as it moves towards cooler water, plus the upper level winds are not ideal. Nevertheless, top winds are 60 miles per hour, and the pressure is 997 millibars, as estimated by satellite intensity forecasting and analysis tools. Farther to the east, we have Invest Area 97E, or EP, for East Pacific, and this is well on its way to becoming the next named storm, and probably a hurricane from there to be called Fabian, Amelia, and then Fabian, and these will both continue to move off generally in this direction. So no threat or any problems to the coast of Mexico or Central America from these systems. And if we look at the 5-day tropical weather outlook for the Pacific, yet a third system is forecast to develop here, and it too more than likely to move off in the direction that these other systems have done. Danielle, listen to that. Danielle, it's Daniel, I know, it's Daniel, and then Amelia, and then Fabian, and then whatever this becomes, we'll see how that progresses. And it's interesting because they will take some heat out of the ocean here just by their very nature of being there, churning up the water and getting rid of some of that upper ocean heat content, and we'll see what kind of impacts that has down the road, especially if one of these becomes rather strong. You never know. So looking at the satellite, visible satellite animation here from the GO16 product, and this coming from Tropical Tidbits, Levi Cowan coding this up so we can see a nice wide shot animation of the Atlantic Basin. Here is soon to be Fabian, and our next suspect area gathering over here probably. Lots of dust out over the tropical Atlantic. And I had a question in an email to me about the dust. What levels of the atmosphere? Typically in the lower to mid levels, 5,000 feet up, so 850 to about 700 millibars of the atmosphere. So anywhere from 5 to 7, 8,000 feet. Basically the mid-levels of the atmosphere as it gets ejected off this Saharan air layer off the coast of Africa by a strong easterly jet coming from the east, this jet stream type pattern or a jet core, and it can advect or move laterally, horizontally, that dust all the way over to Texas. And you know, it can get on your skin and in your hair, but it's very fine particulate matter, almost like Martian dust, if you will. It's not harmful that I have heard of. Maybe in the Cape Verde Islands or the Cabo Verde Islands here, it could be in concentrated amounts that are enough to take precautions, but I've never heard of any problems that people have. It makes for great sunsets and sunrises, but other than that, no real issues. And it does a nice job, the overall background state that causes this, in capping Atlantic development. So, and it's June, and we expect this to happen. If this is going on in the latter part of August, then something is probably amiss. We'll be watching this area through here for potential development as the trough is going by and it leaves some energy behind. Upper level low may be trying to pinch off and move back southwest over that very warm Atlantic surface water. You never know what happens, you know, when those seeded conditions prevail. But I don't see anything in the computer modeling that gives me any reason to worry, let's put it that way. So looking at a real quick glance at the real-time guidance here from the National Centers for Atmospheric Research, or Center, NCAR, we do have a tropical storm out here in the far western Pacific that will eventually make its way up towards the Korean Peninsula, and it might be strong enough to take note of. Let's look at the intensity guidance, if it's on here. There it is. Probably becoming a minimal typhoon, but the biggest threat to these systems, from these systems in this part of the world, South Korea here, is spreading heavy rainfall. And, we see that over on our part of the world. In the Western Hemisphere, that can be problematic. So if we go back to the master map here, there is Amelia, and again, a real quick look at its track. Yep, out to the west, generally with time. A strong deep layer high pressure resides over the eastern Pacific, not allowing anything to turn northward towards Mexico or the southwest U.S. Check this out. This is really cool to see. You got to admit, it is just as tight a guidance envelope as you could want. I mean, wow. No outliers, none of these that are breaking off going this way or over here. I mean, that is one easy forecast to make. Generally speaking, not much room in the guidance envelope for this to stray and go some weird way. The pattern locked in that part of the world. And I think that's it. That was 97E. So no worries there. Oh, real quick, I'll click on it again. It does look like it'll become a hurricane and maybe a Category 3. We'll see. Water temperatures out that way, nice and warm. And you never know, especially if it really develops a solid core and can wrap that intensity in, block itself off from any dry air or shear, it can ramp up very quickly. We saw that with Aletta and Bud just a few weeks ago, was it? All right. So looking at this tweet here, when is the Atlantic going to come to life? Again, climatologically speaking, June and July are very inactive overall, so still nothing out of the norm in terms of activity, although the dust event, I saw Michael Lowry tweeting that it was a top 10 dust intrusion or expulsion off of Africa is a better way to put it for the month of June, it looks like. But still, because it is only June, it's just more of a novelty than anything else, in my opinion. So we'll look ahead. And so Dr. Ventris here tweeting a couple of days ago that maybe as we move through the next few weeks, and yes, some of these guidance products are valid even a few weeks out in time because they are larger puzzle pieces that we can track. And, you know, it's not like we're trying to figure out where a hurricane is going to go 6 weeks from now. These large intra-seasonal signals, like these huge areas of either rising or sinking motion, these wave patterns that he talks about, and he did on that Phone a Friend that I came up with a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't seen that, it's I think 2 Thursdays ago, that update. But what this shows is the next several weeks. And so you see for the time being, generally speaking, negative conditions in the Western Hemisphere, maybe see a flare-up of typhoon activity in the Western Pacific. And then as we move through time, through July, possibly the window opening, and that's what his tweet was alluding to, and let's use yellow here, that maybe in this part of the world, the Western Hemisphere, Atlantic Basin and vicinity, in early August, things would start to become more favorable on a larger scale basis. And then if you throw in the climatological evolution towards then, you know, chances start to potentially go up. So I think this is fascinating that we can have this glimpse into the future of possibilities so that we can be prepared, you know, at least to know this is when you should start looking. Hurricanes don't just pop up out of nothing. There has to be some kind of a background forcing mechanism, warm water, a very humid mid-levels of the atmosphere. You can't have a lot of dry air around. Certainly the upper level winds have to allow for convective processes to go vertical. And then you have to have a seedling, something there. They don't just magically form out of nothing. And this shows you when some of those ingredients I talked about a couple of days ago about getting everything ready to bake chocolate chip cookies. Well, this shows us that in a few weeks, maybe the oven will start to be preheated. We shall see. All right. So I want to show you this, the ensemble prediction system from Levi Cowan's site. Again, the European, I think this is the 12Z run today. And this shows us just a good idea of what the pressure pattern and departures from normal are over the next several days. This is the initial condition where in the eastern Atlantic, pressure is running generally lower than the long-term average. And as we have seen, because of that relaxation of the pressure out here, the trades maybe have come down just a little bit, and the Atlantic surface has warmed a little bit. We'll examine that more on Monday. So let's move through time. This is the initial. Here's 24 hours out. And over the weekend, just a broad, large area of lower than average surface pressures in the Atlantic Basin. And that holds true through parts of next week. And then there's enough of these ensemble members, 50-something members, right? Indicating maybe some development. But look at that. Generally speaking, the average 10-15 millibars against the background pressure field, not that impressive. So I'm not looking at anything major developing in the Southwest Atlantic or the Northern Gulf Coast. 72 hours, the general pattern. You hear the kids in the background there. Hey, it's summer break. They're off in maybe one of them will pop in and sing a song for us. I hooked up an Atari for them. You remember Atari from 78 through the early 80s? I hooked one up for them to my big TV in the other room, and they're having fun with it. So, this will be something to watch for as the ensemble averages are showing possibly something trying to develop, but there's no big overwhelming signal, and by 96 hours it kind of fades, more so by day 5, when very anomalous pressure pattern setting up over the northwest part of the Atlantic, northeast Canada, and maybe, just maybe, we'll need to watch this area for some homegrown development, but nothing too significant and nothing that I'm very worried about, and it'll give us plenty of time to watch. A rainmaker could, come of it across the I-10 corridor, but that's about it. Before I sign off, I want to tell you about this, the Star News Online. I tweeted this earlier. A great article by their intern, Eva Ellenberg. I should invite the kids in to yell into the microphone directly. Really chronicling, is that a word, chronicling? She chronicled my work last year and my team's work with launching Herbie into the eye of Hurricane Nate and other things related to what's happening with our work over the past several years. So check that out on Twitter. I tweeted it earlier. There's my Twitter handle right there if you can see it. And maybe I will invite one of the kids. I'm almost done if I can just make it another minute. You guys should have lots of kids yourselves and then have a home business and see how fun that can be. That's why sometimes I don't do the video part, just in case where you see me. If they come in, I'll end up like that guy on BBC or whatever, where his wife had to come in and crawl under the shot and get him out. That was a riot. I don't want that to happen. I know it's real, but anyhow. It's on Twitter, this awesome article by Miss Ellenberg. She did a great job. And I say that because I've had articles written where they got the dates wrong, the wind speeds wrong, my name was spelled wrong, or the state was wrong. And it's like, come on, get it right. You took the time to listen and write everything down and record it. Why not print it the way I said it? And she did perfect, so I really applaud that. A UNC Chapel Hill student, an intern at the Star News. So have a good weekend ahead. I'll be in and out over the weekend, and I'll produce an update tomorrow and Sunday. Short, probably, just to see what's happening out there, see if anything's brewing up, any trouble. I got enough trouble at home with the kids. Hey, I love them. I'm just kidding. And then Monday, it'll be a long discussion as we go into sea surface temperature anomalies and the SOI and the INSO outlook and all that good stuff as we lay out the groundwork for the week ahead. And a big week in that it is 4th of July, Independence Week, right? It's not a weekend, but middle of next week, isn't it? It's Wednesday. Wow. How do you take a long vacation around that? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? That's kind of stretching it. Anyhow, have a great one. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. Thanks as always for tuning in. I'll be back with you throughout the weekend.